At your local Good Neighbor Pharmacy, we are shaped by the unique communities in which we serve, and we look forward to serving you every single day at every location that we're proud to offer, including Pharmacy Express in Glasgow, Parkland Drugs in Cave City, Metcalf Drugs in Edmonton, and Clark Drugs in Munfordville. We would like to thank you all for being our good neighbors and for your support and business during this past unprecedented year. Find Pharmacy Express online at mygnp.com and find the Empty Nest at Pharmacy Express online on Facebook.
Hello to all. Hola a todos. Konnichiwa. Bonjour à tous. Salvete omnes. So I am a senior here in Glasgow, Kentucky. I go to Barron County High School. I've always lived in Glasgow, Kentucky, and so I'm a native here in Glasgow. I've grown up here, as I mentioned, and really, I believe that's all there is to know about me. I'm really dedicated to my academics, in addition to the work I'm doing with languages. And I focus on a lot of my AP and dual credit courses, and so I think I'm just a really dedicated, motivated student here in Kentucky.
Cody wasn't always academically inclined, but it was after 4th grade that he began to enjoy school and the learning process.
Right, so I guess the school and the languages work hand in hand, because when I was in 7th grade, I was given the opportunity to join the Middle Magnet program. And one of the requirements for the Middle Magnet program was to have a certain score on the English exam, and I think I had the average to get into Magnet. You had to have a high enough score in an English or math exam. I think it was like map testing or something. And that kind of played hand in hand because my English score was high enough to get me into Latin, which was one of the high school classes that I would have to take for the Magnet program, because you had to take one high school class, and that was either Algebra 1 or Latin 1. And I did not test into math because math just is not my strong suit. And so I ended up doing Latin, and my passion took off from there.
See, Cody began to take Latin at Barron County Middle School, and it was one encounter with former assistant principal Michael Davis that Cody found his fire for language learning.
He entered our classroom one day when Miss Capps, the Latin administrator, was out of the classroom. And he was just walking around seeing what we were doing, and I had my Latin textbook open doing my homework. And he came over to me and asked me if I could read what was on the page. And we had just started chapter 5. I remember this very clearly. We just started chapter 5 at that point, and there was a story written in some Latin that I didn't understand yet because we just learned these vocabulary terms. And so I flipped back a couple of chapters, and I read the passage entirely for him at sight, from Latin to English. And that was really the point where I realized that this was something I could do and something that I wanted to dedicate myself more to. And so from there, I started, picking up different Latin textbooks where I could. And this one right here, We Lux Latin, was actually the first Latin textbook that I ever used to teach myself on my own. And this goes through all your basic Latin grammar in 40 chapters. And so that's where that all started. And then I further got to use those skills that I got from that book and my Latin course on the National Latin exam and got the highest score that they had ever had at the middle school.
Cody continued to study Latin extensively, but he turned down an offer to take a higher level of the class. Instead, he says he found a passion for tutoring and teaching others.
From there, instead of doing Latin 3, I ended up doing a Latin 2, but actually doing advanced tutoring with one of the tutors at KET. And that was a great experience because I was able to read some of the classical works that had been written, thousands of years ago during the Roman Republic and Roman Empire, but in the original language, and really understand those better. So we fast forward a little bit, and I began to gain an interest in other languages as well. I began to teach myself French in 8th grade, and just picked up different resources. And I found that whereas my Latin studies had always been more focused on the grammar aspects of the language, because it's a dead language and it's not necessarily studied as an act of communication, I decided that I wanted to focus more on what would be useful for me in initiating conversation with a French speaker. Because that's going to be the thing that you're going to be doing. Necessarily, you wouldn't be going up to any Latin speakers and starting a conversation with them because there unfortunately aren't any. However, with French, I decided to focus on it in a different light and chose resources that treated the language a little bit differently. And these just focused on breaking down and decomposing the different structures of the language and inserting different vocabulary and teaching you different vocabulary forms so that you could express yourselves in different manners.
Cody's currently working on French and Japanese, and the catch? He's learning Japanese from French. And to top it all off, he recently studied Arabic for 10 weeks too.
But it really is a great thing, and I know of several people in the community that said that it's a good idea to learn both French and German first, because there are a lot of course books for different languages published only in those two languages for speakers of those languages. And so that is a good test, but it's really efficient when you don't have perhaps a course for an English speaker. This book was published for English speakers several years ago, but that was a much older edition. This is a much newer edition. It's the type of modern Japanese you'll be speaking in Japan if you were to go there right now.
And learning a language means nothing until you can actually put it to use.
I was studying the language from these books, but definitely one thing with language is that you have to take it out of the textbook and definitely apply it to the real world and apply it to conversing with people. And so I think I definitely got a new competence and a greater competence in Spanish just through communicating with a native speaker of the language. And I think that now, because I have spoken Spanish many more times in the past few months, I feel a lot more confident in communicating in that language, and I think that's definitely something I could do.
Cody says he'd like to return home someday and teach language here in Barron County, but for now he's going to be pursuing a degree in language at WKU in Bowling Green.
Initially, the plan was to pursue ancient languages at university. That was something I had an interest in for a long time, since middle school. However, I believe there's a great opportunity for people that want to teach modern languages. And so I think Spanish is definitely a big one here in the United States, because every high school that I know of offers Spanish, at least to some extent. And so I think teaching Spanish is very possible and is something that I would like to do. The nearest Spanish program is at Western Kentucky University, and I visited there back in February and was invited by the department head. And that was such an amazing experience, and I realized that the programs were of such a great quality and that they were really focused on gaining proficiency, and that many students there had gained competitive scholarships in language, and that was an area where I wanted, that was what I wanted to pursue. And so I definitely think that Spanish is what I want to pursue because I want to be a teacher. That's always been something that's interested me, just because I've always had that kind of interest in education and been inclined to studying and doing that kind of thing. However, also I think it would be a wise choice to also perhaps get expertise in another language and get a degree in that language as well. And so Chinese and Arabic are also offered as majors at Western. And so I'm thinking about doing, since I have a lot of dual credit and AP classes, I think it would be very possible to do a Spanish double major with teacher certification in Chinese or Arabic, whichever one I decide works best for me this semester after doing them both.
And in case you missed it, this has been...
My name is Cody Smith. Cody Sumisu Tomoshimasu. Mi nombre es Cody Smith. Mi nombre es Cody Smith. 我的名字是克迪史密斯。Je m'appelle Cody Smith.
This has been Meet My Neighbor. And this is Cody Smith.